It's a very good evening and welcome to Network. My name is Spumelele Zondi. It's 19:30 Central African Time. Tonight we'll be talking about how militant groups use online spaces to recruit members. We'll also tell you about a new report that looks at which mobile phones are used by Africans. There's also an African social network that we will tell you about tonight. We are live, so find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. It's News Network at sabc.co.za. Let's start with your social media and technology news. Now, in the last week, it was widely reported that a 15-year-old Cape Town girl was prevented from traveling to Syria to join the terror group called ISIS. She had been in contact with the group via social media platforms. Fortunately, these records assisted in alerting her family and authorities from the State Security Agency. The SABC had also been conducting an investigation into the ease with which children can get in contact with global terrorist groups. Here's Network's Dile Khaswane with the details.
From the attack on the World Trade Center back in 2001 to more recently the Westgate Mall siege in Nairobi, global terrorist groups have become more brazen. And increasingly they are turning to social media platforms to recruit young foot soldiers to carry out their deadly acts. These online recruitments take place all over the world, including here in South Africa.
What is really happening is they are being groomed. And it's the same way that sexual predators will groom children in an online space if they're able to get access to them. In the same way you groom people who have expressed sympathy for these kind of causes. And once you start a grooming, you don't do it publicly. It's done very much below the surface.
On Wednesday, the SABC revealed its investigation on local social media recruitment by the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS. This as news emerged that a Cape Town teenager was prevented by authorities from traveling to the Middle East to be part of ISIS. The teen's social media accounts revealed she was in communication with the terror group.
ISIS, in this specific case, I believe, met her on Twitter and took her off there because they said to her that they will be watched in social media. So then they turned to IM. So the likes of WhatsApp becomes really important there as well. So we're not on a public medium anymore, we're on a one-to-one basis.
The State Security Ministry is unclear on the number of South African youngsters who might already have been recruited to join ISIS. Worryingly, the SABC investigation revealed the ease with which social media users could gain contact with people claiming to be ISIS members. So, how can the world caution against communicating with terrorist groups?
The likes of France are putting in new laws to say, well, if any terrorist activity happens in France now, the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Google, Instagram, they are going to be held as accomplices to these terrorist attacks because of the fact that 90% of this of propaganda and incitement happens through social media.
South Africa does not as yet have policy regulating internet access and use, and terror groups like ISIS are as social media savvy as any global marketing company.
We'll have a thorough discussion about that later in the program, so do stay with us. Now, the Mobile Africa study shows that in Africa, most people still use Nokia phones the most. BlackBerry is still popular, but this doesn't mean that its sales are increasing. The study was conducted by Geopol and Worldwide Works. We already know that Africans use mobile phones for a variety of tasks, like making payments, buying goods, and taking vanity selfies. In fact, cell phones have vastly increased internet usage in Africa. Now a new study shows which phone brands Africans use the most. The Mobile Phone Africa study, conducted in South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda and Ghana, shows results that are completely different from the rest of the world.
Nokia is being used by 34% of respondents across these 5 countries. And the Samsung devices are at about half that level, 17%. But when we ask people what they intend to use next, not necessarily what they'll buy, but based on what they'll be getting next, buying or getting hand-me-downs, Samsung suddenly leaps up to 26% and Nokia falls below 20%.
Phones that often break records in North America and China, like Apple, don't do so well in Africa. But there are still many Africans that aspire to buy these high-end devices. It becomes an issue of economics in this regard in Africa. The Geopoll and Worldwide Works survey shows that BlackBerry is not dying in Africa, as has been the trend in the rest of the world.
There was a series of movies on what they called BlackBerry Babes. It was a phenomenon in Nigeria. There you're seeing that aspirational value still holding firm within the lower end of the market, even as the upper end of the market moves on to Samsung and Apple devices.
South Africa is seeing the biggest shift from feature phones to smartphones in Africa. But most people are buying entry-level smartphones, which include Huawei, Samsung and Alcatel. Entry-level smartphones have also contributed to the increase of internet usage in Africa, and the survey found that Nigerians use mobile internet more than any other African country, but South Africans use it for a variety of tasks.
When we looked at the intensity of use and the extent to which people downloaded apps and that kind of thing, in other words, data-intensive use of their phones, we found South Africa was well ahead of Nigeria. And that tells us that connectivity, in fact, is better in South Africa.
Most of those surveyed use their mobile phones for Facebook, to send text messages, listen to radio, and take photographs. Dudur is the first Afrikaans social network. Its founders say it offers Afrikaans people a platform to discuss their culture. Matiba Mutewana has the story for us.
Social media is booming worldwide, and localized platforms like SA's Twitter are quickly gaining momentum. 4 years after launching, the Afrikaans social media platform has launched an app that is available on Apple's iOS and Google's Android devices.
It's a new generation social media mobile media network, because you can do social, pictures, messages, private messages directly to another person, and video, or you can watch mobile TV on it, and you will also be able to buy and sell things, so it becomes an m-commerce marketplace. Now it's only available in Afrikaans, but give us 4 or 5 weeks, then it will be in English. But we will have the full-on launch a little bit later on in the year, where we will have other magnets where people can participate and do things that they really enjoy as South Africans.
Twitter has just over 300,000 users from different parts of the world.
We know that even in Russia we have some people, we call them our citizens of the world, Afrikaans people in Russia, in America, in Europe, in Gauteng, in the Western Cape. So we can see where they are, and very soon we will have a very strong local location-based platform where we will really be able to see where people, whether they're at Soccer City or whether they're in the Soweto Mall or where they are.
The growing need for localized content is among the main drivers for the platform's growth.
It's very important to have local content. So the big networks like Facebook and Twitter, they struggle to really be locally relevant. So for us in South Africa, we will have magnets in Johannesburg. If you join, maybe you will like to see something about the Soweto Mall again, or maybe you want to see something about what's going on in Sandton. And I would be able to have those magnets localized on my home page. So if you go to another country, for instance, if you go to Zambia, you would need to have local media there, either radio, newspaper or sports people, so that when you log on in Zambia, or if you move with your phone there, it will give you that local content first, so that it becomes relevant to you. It's very important for people to understand their local environment and enjoy it, because it's a very, very big trend, local, big trend.
Ericsson's Magnus Mtukudzi says Africa is growing both its application and content production.
We're seeing a lot of Africans, on the continent, here and everywhere, developing local applications, local content. So most of the content we see consumed is really becoming local instead of waiting for content to come from overseas. So there's a change in Africa, which I think is very good for the continent, very good for the people, and also it's changing the economic activities, because we're now selling our content not only locally, because today once you put your application online, it becomes global.
Now, there's a study that shows that a heavy Facebook usage can create envy, which would later lead to one being diagnosed with serious depression. Researchers from Nanyang Technological University in Singapore and 2 other North American universities surveyed 736 students who said that they feel bad after realizing that their lives don't measure up to that of their peers. Here's more.
We went to the streets to find out exactly why people log onto their Facebook.
I go on my Facebook and check on my friends and my inbox.
Basically, I chat with my friends that I haven't been seeing for a while.
I log into my Facebook to keep myself busy and to entertain myself.
These reasons are contrary to a study conducted by Bradley and the University of Missouri Columbia in the USA, as well as Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. The study claims that heavy Facebook usage can cause envy, which will ultimately lead to serious depression.
Facebook is a narcissistic platform. So we're looking at it and we're going, this is how beautiful my life is. Oh, let me Photoshop an image of me before I use it as my profile pic, you know. And then obviously we are looking at our friends and we're pegging ourselves. This generation is constantly pegging themselves according to their peers. So yes, we're looking at it and we're going, Susie got married, oh great. And we're going, David just had his third child, you know. So yes, I can believe that there is.
When asked whether or not they feel any sort of pressure after logging into their Facebook accounts and finding that their lives do not measure up to their friends' lives, the 20-something-year-olds had this to say.
I feel that it feels bad that someone now is living expensive life, nice life, while I'm still studying.
I'm still young. Yeah? I have nothing but time. I don't have money now, but I have time. That's something that money can buy.
I don't get pressurized or depressed or anything like that.
Researchers surveyed 736 college students who said that they feel bad about themselves every time they find that their lives do not measure up to those of their peers on Facebook. Though this study proved true for these students, it does not necessarily mean that everyone will fall victim.
It's a SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Stay with us. After the break, we'll talk about militant groups online.
Get your issue of Evoke magazine at sabcevoke.co.za or download the app on iOS or Android and immerse yourself in our world.
Vincent Bones, the man with silky vocals that had many viewers captivated from his very first audition, now holds the title of King of South African Idols Season 10.
I came from the streets, so I was a bit rough. So when I got to Boys Town, I started teaching myself playing piano with 2 fingers. Well, that's how I started with music. So I started getting interested in piano, and then I started singing.
He's a loving father, loving husband, and he makes us happy.
Bophelong, your show about those who took on and conquered life's challenges. Every Saturday at 17:30 CAT.
SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. Stay with us. Now let's pick up now on our lead story on how terror groups use social media to recruit people. The SABC has conducted an investigation into the ease with which children can get in contact with global terrorist groups. This as we learned of a 15-year-old Cape Town girl who was taken off a plane as she was bound for Syria to join the terror group ISIS. She had been in contact with the group via social media platforms. Hasina Gori is the reporter who conducted the SABC investigations, and she joins us now. Hello, Hasina.
Hi.
Now, Hasina, if you can just briefly tell us about this one particular story. What happened there? How was she contacted?
With this case particularly, we don't know exactly how she was contacted, but hearing the news of the 15-year-old girl who was taken off the plane for allegedly, going to join ISIS, and we heard a lot about social media coming out of this, and that she was contacted by that. So we decided to find out how exactly was she contacted and how may we go about it. So we did some digging, we went online, we searched various sites, we tried to see where, how, and how we can get through it. And what we found was one site where a self-proclaimed jihadist claimed he was from South Africa and that he could assist people who wanted to come to Syria He could assist them with the travel and logistics, but he's got a password-protected site, so you can't just go on the internet and just find him. He gives you various means to contact him. And what we realized was that they don't use traditional social media networks. So not Facebook, not Twitter. That might be the place where they put out their message, but that wasn't where they were giving you information on how to go to Syria. We decided to try and contact them via one of these very private social media networks. It allows you to create aliases, fake names, fake profiles, and where the information is not really under the spotlight and where I can't publicly search it. So I created a profile and I contacted one of these recruiters, you can call them. And it took a few days of back and forth of them, gaining my trust and hoping I wasn't a spy to give me a bit more information. What came out of it, for me specifically from this, was that they're not recruiting people that don't want to go to Syria. They're recruiting people that are sympathetic to their cause, and then from there working out ways of how they can go through there.
Now, Hasina, if this is a private website and you only gain entry on invitation, if you will, then how do people find out about this website?
I think a lot of community work may be going on, or there might be someone that they would interact. Also, Arthur Goldstruck puts it very well, that he says it's people showing sympathy to a cause. So I might like a Facebook page, I might like a Twitter handle that is in support of ISIS, and from there you'd direct message the person, you'd inbox them. So once you like the page and you show that you want to be part of this kind of group, the conversation goes private. It goes beyond public scrutiny. It goes in a place where not anyone can really gain access to it. What we also saw, and I saw your earlier story about Facebook changing their rules and regulations. Because of this, you'd find that pages you saw a week ago on Facebook are no more there. They've been suspended. Twitter handles, just disappearing. And what they've done then is counteracted that by creating their own websites and forums where they say it's out of the control and the rules of other people, and it's ways for people then to start speaking. And I think that if you are a person who is sympathetic to their cause, you would go online and look for these kind of hashtags that they might have. You'd find, profiles of certain people you think are affiliated to it, and then in that way find people who from your country. And that's how I think you then get recruited to it.
Now, Hasina, you are saying that they're moving away from Facebook as a platform that they're using, and Facebook and Twitter, that is, but they still use Facebook and Twitter, don't they?
Yes, Facebook and Twitter would be used as your public means of attracting people. But I don't think it's where they're sending out your private messages and messages on how exactly to go about and get to Syria if you want to relocate and be part of the jihadi movement.
You speak about these websites being password protected. Is this a password that one would create themselves when they enter the website, or are you given a password? Can, let's say, a 15-year-old, for example, gains access to this, and a 15-year-old has created a website maybe using the father's name. Can parents easily crack the passwords?
No, I think it's where the person itself is creating it, and that's where the problem is, where parents don't have then access to it. They don't they're not privy to that information of what the child is receiving and what she's sending out. And I think that then goes back to parenting and social media and what kind of rules that you put in place for your child.
You say once you had entered, then the conversation then goes to a place where it's very difficult for most people to come back. Can you just tell us about some, maybe if you will, some of the conversations that were taking place on those online forums?
One of the online forums that I spoke with was a Johannesburg recruiter who first wanted to ascertain whether or not I was serious about joining the Islamic State and whether I had the money, the means to relocate. He cautioned me specifically as a female from joining and coming by myself. He actually put me in touch with another female who was also in Syria, and they actually encouraged females that want to travel to get married first. So they then wanted to put us into contact with men who were also traveling. and then maybe you get married to that person and then travel together. A lot of it was also to ascertain whether you are not a spy. So they speak in a lot of colloquial Arabic, in Muslimness I would call it. So in language that if you're not from the religion, you might not understand the terminology that they use. At one stage, there are some questions to make sure I was actually Muslim on prayers and things like that. So I think they are becoming a bit more aware that they are spies. There are people that are not saying who they are, and then only giving you information.
Right. Hasina Gori, it's certainly an interesting chat, and we probably can go on and on, but unfortunately time is not on our side. Thank you for being a part of our network tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. Stay with us.
Get the scoop on what really happens at the SABC straight from us. Read our cover story to experience the world through the eyes of Bonang Mateba. Get to know the fresh faces of our new primetime telenovela Uzalo, and join in the 50th birthday celebrations of Mungana Lonene FM and Palapala FM, all in the latest issue of Evoke magazine. Don't miss out. Get yours at sabcevoke.co.za or download the app and stand a chance of winning a double ticket to the 2015 Belgian Grand Prix.
News Network at sabc.co.za. Thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight. It was raining smartphones in South Africa this past week, with Samsung launching its flagship handset, the Samsung S6, as well as the launch of the HTC One M9 on Wednesday, April the 8th. Producer Lebusi Jake got a chance to try out both of these.
So the Samsung S6 has finally arrived in South Africa. This past week it was launched, on the 8th of April. But not only did the Samsung launch, but HTC also launched their flagship device this week, which is the HTC One M9. Very beautiful Android phones, I think. I mean, very high-end Android phones. But let's talk about the Samsung right now. So the Samsung, for many critiques, they say that it sort of reminds them of an iPhone 6. There's not, especially the patent, there's not much of a difference between this Samsung S6 and the iPhone 6. But what I should say I really liked about this particular device is, I mean, the cool background. The back cover is now totally transparent, and it's plastic. You can actually see through and see the battery in there. And one of my favorite things while I was playing with it was the camera. I mean, it's a 16 megapixel camera. That's a rear camera, and the front camera is a 5 megapixel, but it's just crisp, clear, beautiful pics. I took a picture of this South African flag right here, which is just awesome. But compared to the HTC, let's go back to this HTC. The HTC is actually, I mean, they hit it with their camera. I think they went all out, because it's a 20 megapixel. But compared to the Samsung's picture quality, and this is, by the way, a picture that was taken under the same light, for a 16 megapixel camera with such a beautiful and crispy clear picture, it does the 20 megapixel no justice whatsoever. This was not a really great quality of a 20 megapixel camera. The Samsung S6 processor is a quad-core 1.5 GHz Cortex by A53 and quad-core 2.1 GHz Cortex by A57. The battery life of this device is at 2,600 milliamperes, and it retails for about 12,000 rands. As for the HTC One M9 processor, it's a 2 GHz octa-core Snapdragon 810, and its battery life is 2,900 milliamperes. It feels really good on the hand, because I mean the metal cover is just it really feels expensive. I mean, it's a really high end. And when you're holding it, you feel like, okay, I'm holding a serious, high-end Android phone. It has a lot of features. Like what was interesting to me was this car feature, which is, I think you can sort of set up your car to it, via Bluetooth, and you just like have, dialer and speaker, and I think you can raise your phone, your music up high, and navigation right here, wherever you're going, and yeah, so you can see, you don't have to, it's a hands-free basically, I think, for your car. And I love the overall hardware, I mean, just the outer shell. It's just a beautiful phone, I think. I mean, the bronze color just does it. It was not anything special to me compared to the previous flagship, last year's one, the HTC One M8. That was, I think, retailing for almost 8,000 Rand. It was launched in the country, but not officially in stores just yet. Yeah, so this not only was the Samsung and the HTC launched on the 8th of April. These were, by the way, launched on the same day. That's that. Thank you.
All right, let's now see what some people have been sharing in social media. It's President Jacob Zuma's birthday today. South Africans on social media spent the day wishing the president a happy birthday. Helen Zille, the leader of the South African opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, has announced that she is stepping down. As a result of this, Zille has been trending in South Africa's social media. Throughout Africa, the hashtag Xenophobic SA has been dominant. This is after xenophobic attacks in the coastal city of Durban. News reports say that 3 people have been killed in the latest attacks. Right, and that's all we have for you. We leave you with images of some of the robots that were on show at a recent robots exhibition in India. Remember, we are live, so find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. From me and the rest of the team, have a good one.
Bones, the man with silky vocals that had many viewers captivated from his very first audition, now holds the title of King of South African Idols Season 10.
I came from the streets, so I was a bit rough. So when I got to Boys Town, I started teaching myself playing piano with 2 fingers. Well, that's how I started with music. So I started getting interested in piano, and then I started singing.
He's a loving father, loving husband, and he makes us happy.
Bophelong, your show about those who took on and conquered life's challenges, every Saturday at 17:30 CAT.
Everybody wants to look like Superman, and unfortunately nothing in a bottle, nothing in a capsule form will give you muscle. It's hard work, in fact it's smart work.
It is time sportsmen and women realize that supplements may be contaminated with banned substances and that this can affect their health in the long term.
The only way a supplement can be regarded as safe from banned substances is if the entire supplement batch is tested and cleared by an accredited anti-doping laboratory.
Join me on Health Talk every Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. as we unpack current health stories.